November 9th, 2021, when a young architect finished her workday in Istanbul's financial district and began a routine walk back to her hotel, she had no idea her story would soon shake an entire nation. The events that followed turned into a tragedy that shocked the entire country. But the truly unsettling part of this incident is the unanswered question it left behind. Is simply walking down an ordinary street enough to tear someone away from their dreams? Are we truly safe on the roads we walk every day? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join us on this journey, where we delve deeply into unheard or overlooked true crime files, and to ensure you never miss our content. This is First Degree Guilty. 28-year-old Başak Cengiz was in the most productive and hopeful period of her life. Having graduated from architecture school with a high GPA, she was a brilliant professional whose talent was quickly recognized among her peers. However, defining her solely by her achievements would fall short. Those around her described her through her deep love for animals, her endless kindness, and a heart always ready to help. Başak was not just a successful architect. She was a determined and independent young woman, forging her own path in a competitive industry. As she confidently paved her way with her architectural vision and professional discipline, that path led her to the love of her life, Mahir. When they found each other, they became not just a couple, but each other's closest friend and safe harbor. It wasn't long before they decided to build a life together and got engaged. They were planning a large wedding for the summer of 2022. In those days, Başak's entire world revolved around celebrating her career milestones on one hand and experiencing the excitement of the new, happy home she was about to build on the other. Başak's career success had taken her out of town for a month to work on a major bank project. The distance between her hotel and the office was quite short. She was going about her days within a professional routine. When the calendar turned to November 9th, she was on the 26th day of this temporary assignment. Everything had gone according to plan, and she was only 4 days away from returning home to her beloved fiancé, Mahir. That evening, due to a heavy workload, she left the office slightly later than usual. She normally used the company-provided shuttle. However, that delay of just a few minutes caused her to miss it. Relying on the short distance, she decided to walk back to the hotel that night. This was a completely ordinary and seemingly safe choice she had made several times before. But that evening, this brief walking route was about to intersect with a dark plan entirely out of Başak's control. While Başak was heading toward her destination on the street that evening, something very different was happening in a luxury residential complex on the other side of the road. 27-year-old Göktuğ Boz came from an educated and privileged family, at least from the outside looking in. The son of a lawyer mother and an architect father, he was studying sociology while living alone in an apartment owned by his father. According to his family's statements, he had received psychological support for a long time in the past, but was thought to have recovered in recent years. However, when the door to his home was opened, the scene inside stood in stark contrast to this picture of recovery. All the windows of the apartment were tightly covered with newspaper. The walls were filled with disturbing notes reflecting the turmoil of a mind. Cryptic phrases like 4 years and 120 days, 24 days and 1 day, or I could do it 67 times while allergic, served as evidence of the isolated and obsessive world the individual had created within himself. Yet, the most unsettling detail in this apartment was not the writing on the walls, but a large collection of sharp tools and custom-made swords found inside. Around 6 p.m. on the evening of November 9th, Göktuğ left his apartment carrying a bag concealing a samurai sword. For about 20 minutes, he wandered the streets aimlessly. During those exact minutes, Başak had finished the final details in her office and missed the shuttle due to that life-altering delay of a few minutes. Unaware that the street would later bear her name, she turned onto it. This street was the shortest route to her hotel. She didn't realize she was taking her final steps. Following a brief pursuit, Göktuğ carried out his plan with a sudden move that shattered the silence. Although citizens nearby wanted to rush to her aid, Göktuğ hurled threats with the object in his hand, allowing no one to approach. Fleeing the scene and returning home quickly, Göktuğ later stated in his testimony, "When I arrived home, I was filled with a great sense of peace and relief. I cleaned my sword in the bathroom once I got back." Tragic as it is, despite all life-saving efforts at the hospital she was taken to, Başak was unable to hold on to life. It did not take long for detectives to reach the perpetrator. Just a few hours after the incident, Göktuğ was taken into custody in his own apartment. Detectives had the evidence and a suspect, but the one missing piece occupied the minds of the entire nation. Why Başak? We will delve deeply into the chilling answer the perpetrator gave to this question and his defense later in the video. But in those moments, an entirely different tragedy was unfolding miles away from Istanbul. The first person to grow suspicious of Başak's silence was her fiancé, Mahir. Unable to reach her and failing to suppress that indescribable bad feeling inside, Mahir set out purely on his intuition, despite not having received any official news. He covered the approximately 300-mile distance between Ankara and Istanbul in just 3 hours, driving at a speed far beyond normal. This seemingly impossible journey was, in fact, proof of a man's final, desperate struggle in the hope of saving the woman he loved. For Başak's family, the world stopped with that brief phone call from law enforcement. A few professional sentences delivered over the phone instantly reduced 28 years of a family's devotion and all their future dreams to ashes. The echo of what happened crossed the borders of that quiet street and quickly reached the heart of the entire country. A successful, idealistic young architect known for her kindness becoming the subject of this tragedy created an indescribable anger and grief in society. The reactions were so immense that the highest authorities in the nation did not remain silent. The president personally visited the family to share their pain and promised that justice would be served. From civil rights organizations to women's rights advocates, from Başak's colleagues at the National Union of Architects to legal bar unions, a single voice rose from all segments of society. Are we safe? For days, this was the only topic of discussion on the streets, across social media platforms, and in news bulletins. Başak's name was given to the faculty where she studied, the street where the incident took place, and to a kindergarten. Yet the heaviest silence occurred on the day of farewell. What her fiancé Mahir said at Başak's funeral deeply affected even me while preparing this documentary, despite knowing about the case beforehand.
Başak seni çok seviyorum. Başak seni çok seviyorum.
As the investigation deepened, the course of the case evolved into one of the most challenging ethical debates in Turkey's legal history. In accordance with the sanctity of the right to defense, one of the fundamental cornerstones of law, Göktuğ's defense was taken up by his mother, who was also a lawyer. Initially, a strategy frequently employed in such striking cases was pursued: the claim that the perpetrator lacked mental capacity. In his statements, Göktuğ alleged that he had no rational control, that he heard voices causing this tragedy, and that he felt remorse for his actions. The defense, meaning his mother, argued that Göktuğ had lost his ability to reason and therefore should not be punished. However, scientific data painted a picture diametrically opposed to this strategic claim. A detailed expert report prepared by the National Forensic Institute completely changed the course of the case. The report scientifically proved that the perpetrator was of sound mind, fully comprehended the consequences of his actions, and made his decisions consciously. The massive backlash rising from the public and the certainty of the scientific report eventually made the defense impossible. At the end of this process, his mother announced her withdrawal as the defense attorney with a statement declaring that there was no longer any legally defensible ground left. At that point, even the defense collapsed. At the end of the trial process, Göktuğ faced the most severe penalty within the current legal system. He will now spend the rest of his life completely isolated from society in a solitary cell. Yet, even this maximum sentence is not enough to lighten the weight of the question we ask. Why Başak? The answer to this question is, unfortunately, almost identical to the defense of the perpetrator in the Ceren Özdemir case, another tragic file we examined previously. This dark intersection of logic, forged at different times by two individuals completely unaware of each other, strips away all pretense and lays bare the staggering abyss between a healthy human mind and criminal psychology. Göktuğ's answer to the question, why Başak, was, simply because she was a woman. I thought the probability of her fighting back was lower. Başak Cengiz's story continues to remind us of that massive question, still echoing on those ordinary streets we pass by every day. Are we truly safe? Or does our life depend merely on the momentary dark decision of a stranger we have never met?